Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. In today's episode, I have joining me Joel Robnett. Joel is Director of Sales and Marketing for TechEds. Joel, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
Awesome to have you. Joel, tell me a bit about TechEds.
Yeah, well, TechEds, we were founded in the mid '90s as a consulting company, and as things have evolved and changed, we've really believed that all companies, regardless of size or revenue, should have current security and technology capabilities to protect their business and protect their data, and really just enable both their people and what they're trying to do. So we've evolved just as most people do, and so we now offer managed services both on the security and operations side, cloud services, technology, procurement. But really at the heart, we're all about trying to solve problems. I think if you get into technology, it's all about that. It's actually kind of the first one in our four core values: solve the problem, do the right thing, show up for each other, and ignite your brilliance. We really want people that come to TechEds, we want to allow them to flourish, and then we find that really does benefit our customers and clients. So yeah, it's a little bit about us.
I love that first core value of solve problems, because I say this all the time about CRM. Nobody buys CRM because they love CRM. They are buying it because they want it to solve a problem. They want it to make their business better. They want it for the outcome that technology delivers. Nobody likes technology. We just need it as a tool.
Fair point. Yeah, for sure.
Sure. No, I love it. That's your emphasis. I'm completely aligned with that.
Great.
Joel, when you look back over your career, what are the three things you think have really driven and led to your success?
Good question. I don't know which one to start, so I won't start any particular order, but I think when you look at just sales in general, I think a big part of that is really attitude effort, right? I think that it's one of the careers that your input drives your output. And so I think always wanted to drive hard, the competitive nature of that. I think that's a big piece. I also think whether you want to call them relationships or partnerships, I really believe in partnering. I think throughout my career, whether it was internally, externally with customers, the partnership piece, working together, trying to, again, solve the problems together, I think that's helped me be successful, because definitely none of us do it on our own. There are always people there that are helping us, whether it's pushing us, pulling us, however that is. So I think that's the other one. And then the third one, that's going to kind of put four in there, I guess, on two different words. But
totally fine.
But the other one, I'm kind of struggling a little bit for a third one. Those are really the two core ones that I look to on that. So yeah, I'll end with two, and I'll follow.
That's fine. I'm sure there'll be another one that'll pop up as we talk.
Yeah.
And you just, I found my third. It's fine.
I got my third. Yeah.
So, young Joel, did you want to be like a sports star? Did you want to be what was your vision as a kid of what you thought you would end up doing as an adult?
Yeah, I of course, everyone, I guess I shouldn't say everyone. Definitely be a sports star. And I did get to do some athletics, through college and a little bit post-college. But I don't know if I had a clear vision of this is the one thing I want to do. I think I had a vision of what I wanted my life to be.
Yeah.
Actually, I did want to go to law school, be a lawyer. Well, I didn't know if lawyer or judge. Still wonder if I should have gone back and been a judge, but that's okay. So I
think you're my first person who said they wanted to be a judge. I don't think I've come up with that one yet.
I mean, it's just like, hey, give me your story. All right, I'm going to tell you whether I think or not. And that's the final decision. So that maybe tells you a little bit about my personality. But I actually did pursue that. Interned with a lawyer in college, and he gave me the advice, like, don't go to law school. go live a little bit of life.
Yeah.
So I took that. I took the LSAT, and then I was like, no, I really do. It's one of those things where I was having a hard time kind of doing the filling out. So I'm like, yeah, I need a break. So I did, and I was able to do some interesting things. First year out of college, work on a festival and some things that I hadn't got a chance to do, and then just kind of stumbled realistically into technology, and started in kind of customer support, customer service, and still had plans to go back to law school. And then we had a morning hoops group once a week that a bunch of people from the office and our in-house attorney played. And so we were just chatting one day, and I was talking to him about it. He's like, "Dude, don't be a lawyer. Go into sales. Go into sales." I'm like, really? Like, yeah. So that kind of set me on the course to go into sales, and I kind of took the traditional path of inside sales and field sales, and then working in sales leadership. So a little bit of how I got into it. So
that's funny. I mean, I have a similar. It's different, but similar in that from 7th grade on, I thought I was going to be a pilot. That was my plan. I was going to go to one of the academies, graduate from the academy, go to flight school, and be a pilot, either Air Force or Navy. I didn't care. Then I found out I'm 6'5", I'm too tall. And so 1 inch too tall for the Air Force, and Navy, they do it different, but I'm still too tall.
okay.
And so then I was just like, I had no clue because I had it all laid out. And that's how I did it. I just kind of stumbled into computer science. I'm like, what do I do? I like computers. And it's like, I just kind of stumbled into it. And it's funny how life directs you where you need to be. Yeah. So, you're doing sales. What was the transition from your start, like customer service, support, that kind of thing, into sales? Was that an easy transition for you, or was there struggles?
I think that's part of the reason why I kind of felt like, when the advice to stick into sales was because it was a fairly natural transition. I found in customer support, I probably wasn't most detailed to do that sort of thing, but when detailed enough, I think, when you start to look in at the sales piece, but, I was able to, kind of develop a process. I think the habits from athletics, a lot of those sorts of similar carryovers, the team, the competitive nature, the partnerships, working with people, trying to solve problems. It was pretty natural for that. And, I didn't have a lot of guidance moving into that role, just the size company we were at the time. So a lot of that was just kind of innate, and got to get out as an inside seller with my field seller counterparts and kind of be going and things like that. And I just really connected with that and clicked with that. So yeah, it was, I guess at the start, it was pretty good transition.
That's awesome. Did you run into any difficulties, any hurdles that you had to figure out how to get over?
I think just, some of picking up the phone and reaching out and being proactive and not waiting. I think that, there was, again, we didn't have it was probably earlier where we're a little bit more metric these days and a little bit more process from the outbounding piece. So I think a lot of that was just doing that, how to do it, the best way to do it. Realizing that it is, some level it's a math thing. You just got to do enough of the activities, right? The input to the output. So I think that was probably just not really doing that. I mean, it was somewhat, hey, you want to talk to people, but I think there is still a method to that and a way to do that in a way that is most effective. So I think learning that was probably the biggest kind of challenge, right? It's easy to pick up the phone and, hey, yeah, you want to, yeah. But to go out and make that, build those relationships, build a connection, I think that was kind of learning how to do that.
Yep. I think that some people can do it naturally. It was not natural for me because I'm naturally a very shy person. That's something I really have to work at. When you look back at that time, I think one of the hardest thing for people in sales is to deal with, I hate the word failure but not being successful, because we don't always succeed. We lose deals, right?
That does happen, yes. From what I've heard. It does happen. What I've heard, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. It's other people.
Yeah.
How did you deal with those initial setbacks where you're not closing deals like maybe you thought you would? And how do you leverage that today?
Yeah. I don't like to lose. I mean, I definitely like to win, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that's what keeps doing it. I think, initially, and as I've gotten through that, I think it's just I've got it up on my whiteboard here. You're not right or wrong. You're just right or losing. So I think, or right or learning, excuse me, not losing.
Right.
So I think that's really just trying to get back to that sports metaphor is you don't like it, but you can always learn from it. How do you learn from it? How do you improve? I think at some level, you take it so seriously and you just got to, as you get older, hey, one deal, long term, right? Trying to think longer term. So I think that's the toughest thing when you get your career. Everything seems so like, oh no, when really it is that long term play. But I think just trying to, hey, something happened. Expectations weren't clear either side, right? Their expectations, what we're delivering, what I was thinking. So I think just trying to replay that just like you would in the sports world of watching the video, going back, replaying it, and then kind of moving forward, and just trying to realize like, hey, the analogy is you're going to lose. Do you get back in the game? Do you keep going after it? Yep. That sort of thing. So
tell me what's behind your decision. What was behind your decision to pursue the leadership role?
I think at some level, I felt like it was kind of somewhat of progression. And, I've always enjoyed leadership roles and have been leadership roles. So it seemed somewhat natural to do that. And I do love coaching. I mean, I coach a lot. At this point in my life, it's kind of my hobby. Got kids that age, and I really do enjoy it. So I think that was just those kind of two pieces led me to pursuing a leadership opportunity. To do that. So
yeah.
And apparently I'm a glutton for punishment, which everybody says you don't realize until you're in it.
Yeah, I've done that. I've coached about everything. Yeah, you got to be a glutton for punishment if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to laugh. Do you have a central theme or as a leader, especially a new leader, building a rapport with your team, I think, is central. How do you go about that? I think that essential task of building that rapport, that trust, that connection with your team.
Well, I think you did hit on. I mean, it is establishing trust and trying to do it fairly quickly. And I do think. I mean, to me, I do enjoy getting to know people and kind of understanding them at a different level, and hopefully being able to, quickly communicate. I'm interested in their success. I'm interested in them and helping them improve whatever those goals. I mean, again, we outline for a number of goals, but how do they get better? So I think spending the time, trying to listen to them, not trying to make it all about what I need from them, but what they need and how I can enable them to go do that. I mean, I guess the term servant leadership gets bantered about a lot, but I do think that I'm here to enable my team. However big, small that team is, I'm here to enable that. That requires me to listen, build trust, and I think spending time with them, not just on sales calls, but other points in time, and really trying to establish that trust.
Yeah. What role does that trust play when you're establishing goals and expectations for your team?
That's a good. I don't know if I've quite thought about it that way, but I think you got me stumped on that one a little bit on the trust thing here, on how I would relate that to the setting of the goals. I think I just a lot. Was
it a collaboration?
Yeah, and that's kind of. I think it's a transparency, because we all know at some level we are given pieces, and I think the transparency and trying to understand and talk through how people can be successful with those goals, and not just being like, hey, deal with it, move on. So I think it was really more in how you communicate the goals, not necessarily the setting of, because a lot of times, hey, it is what it is. We got to go make this thing happen.
Yep.
So I think it's more about the transparency and the communication and helping people work through that if there's difficulty around that and how they can go do that. So I think, again, kind of getting back to my role as the enabler and really that communication and transparency of what those goals are, how they can help achieve it, how I can help them achieve it, not necessarily feeling like they're alone in doing that. Right. That's, you have a team, create a team culture so you're not on that island. I know, there tends to be some sales folks like, hey, I want to just go do it on my own. And that's great, but we can help you. We can work better together. You can still go be that leader and that lead in your role, but really it needs to be about a team supporting you and going forward. So I would go back to really that transparency and communication and support piece of that.
I love that.
And hopefully
Especially,
that shows trust. Yeah.
the lone wolves, like, God bless them, there's so many of them in the sales world, and so many of them are really successful. But we're not successful all the time. We all have down quarters, and we need help, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I love that approach that people need to realize there are going to be times you need to lean on someone else.
Yeah.
And so you need to be, I think as a leader, um, there's some ways you can role play that for people. Is there something that you do or a way that you do to kind of role play that for your team?
As far as the trust perspective,
The trust and just being part of the team and being open and
I
being
think,
willing to ask for help.
yeah, I think part of it is I try to demonstrate that, right? And hey, I don't always have the right answer. When we have tough problems, like I'm dealing with tough problems internally, like brainstorm with the team. I think bringing them in to more, not all of the, you can't do all of the decision process, but I think trying to make them a part of what we're doing as a sales culture, as a sales team, not just, hey, you're here to do something, but so I think, even in one-on-one scenarios, not, I guess I getting back to the judge analogy, I do like to give my opinion and I believe it's pretty correct a lot of the time, but hey, I can tell you, but what do you think, right? Trying to put it back on them, trying to encourage them to really, for me to be a sounding board on that piece of things. So I think that's how I try to, I don't necessarily role play that, but help, make sure that it really is, a culture of trust and communication. And hey, we don't all have the right answers. We are really here together. Like, let's share successes, let's share failures, let's do all that. I think that's super important. And sometimes it can be a little more difficult when you have a disparate teams, right? It is the virtual world. I think those sorts of things become a little bit tougher. So creating spaces where we are together, we are in person. I think those are still important, especially for sales folks. It's such a, there's a lot of emotion to the profession, right? Again, getting back to the
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have the highs and the lows. I think as a leader, especially in the lows, you have to be very careful in terms of how you handle those with people because you can fracture trust. How do you leverage the learning opportunities? Some people call failure, but we were talking before we hit record that it's you either win or you learn. I love that. I'm a big believer in that. How do you leverage that in your role as a leader?
I think it's having the conversation and doing it in a way that, hey, what could we have done different? Not I mean, so much of that is subtle in the communication piece. It's how you say it. It's what you do. It's not coming down hard on, well, I can't believe this or I can't believe that, right? It's like, hey, this happened. So what happened? Let's dissect it a little bit. Let's try to be unemotional about, hey, what are the things we could have done better? And then really the encouragement of, hey, okay, let's move forward again. I think that's the big thing. Pause, try to analyze what could we have done different, us, them, probably a combination of both. Now, great, let's go get the next one because there's always next one. And I think that's kind of pivoting the focus to the go forward piece.
Yeah, it's easy to get so, especially when you're getting started in sales, you're so focused on what's in front of you. It's hard to have that long-term perspective.
But I think that long-term perspective, I think especially on our side where there's multiple things we can do for a customer. We never want to get hung up on one thing, right? And whether we just had a recent one where, hey, they're not necessarily going forward with one service, but there's some other things that we can go capitalize on. Let's focus on that. Let's move forward. Let's continue to work. So I think always having that long-term relationship partnership in mind. May not be working at this company, but really trying to make sure that is, that long-term view is in mind.
Yeah, I'm always another quarter. Yeah, you have to become a trusted advisor for your customers, especially if you're in the tech world like we are. Because to do that, you have to understand what are the problems they're dealing with. A lot of times it's not technology, but it's wrapped around technology. I imagine in your world, you guys have to deal with that a lot, right? Where, I'm trying to run a business and I'm using technology as a tool. What do you guys do? How do you take advantage of those opportunities? I guess is the question I'm asking you.
Yeah, well, I think definitely with the ethos of solve the problem, we sometimes we have a tendency to jump in too. But I think it's really pulling back, trying to do as much assessing as possible, and really trying to get to, I know we overplayed the outcome. What really are we trying to get to? Like technology is just an enabler. It's just a tool, just like anything else. But what really are you trying to solve? And I think sometimes it's, even if I'm a consumer, it's tough for me to really, have I thought through that? Do I really know what I'm trying to get to?
Yeah.
So I think trying to work with customers to understand what really are you trying to get to. And we do use the word outcomes, but I think that is the North Star, right? You always got to be driving back to that. And maybe the first couple discussions, it's not really actually the outcome, right? You kind of got to keep peeling back that, asking the questions, listening. I know we talk about asking questions, listening, asking questions, listening. I think that's how we can help customers do that. And a lot of that is through assessments and things like that. And there's a lot of tools that we can use for that. But I still think the asking of the question, always restating, hey, are we sure we're still on the right path? I think a lot of that is super important when you're talking to customers. Because again, whatever we deliver is a tool to help them get to their outcome.
Yeah, and we talk about trust as a sales leader, but it's also building trust with your customer.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so can you elaborate that on more? Like, what are some things you like to do to establish that trust beyond what we've talked about with questions and listening? What other ways do you build trust?
Trust, yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, the core of it is asking those questions, and I think it'll step back. It's where can we help, and understanding where we can't help, and being transparent with, we can do this, we can't do that. I think that gets back to the partnerships. If we can't bring someone else who can. I think as long as, really trying to look at that holistic picture for the customer, and partnerships on our side are a big piece of that. And how do we bring those in, even if it's not something that we necessarily deliver? I think that's another great way to bring customers trust, being just straight up, no, we can't do that, and being okay with that, and not worrying like, hey, we gotta hang on to every little thing. But I think definitely trying to provide, partnerships outside of what we bring to our customers can definitely help trust on that piece of thing.
What part of your job do you love the most?
To me, it gets back to that, the relationship people. When you're with a client, when you're with someone on your team, and you're helping them be successful, and again, you're just going through it, right? You're going through the tough time, and you get to that other piece. I think that's part of the reasons why I like the sales profession, is that it has that built into that. So I think that's the same thing. And again, it, like I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed, or I wanted to get into the leadership role so I could help coach and I could see other people be successful. So I think when you see the team successful, when you see someone who's battled through something, whether I've specifically helped or just kind of given some advice, or help clear a roadblock, right, internally, externally, to do that, I think that's still the most important thing. And sitting down with the customer and getting to that endpoint and be like, hey, we really helped you get to your outcome, like what we're all here to do, right? Solve that problem. So
yeah, that's what it's all about, right? And it is relationships where people sell into people.
Yep. Yeah. And I think really that we talk about the outcomes, but I think also a big part is, seeing, I guess, as we talk through this, is, seeing companies, people, work for that potential. Because I think that, we talk about being 110% or whatever that is. I think it's really hard to operate at that all the time, but, being able to identify, hey, you have potential to do X, Y, or Z, and then the work to go get there, and then making that happen. I guess that's still part of the same thing, but I think that is definitely the favorite part of the job, for sure.
Oh yeah. When you were getting started, what was the hardest part early on as a sales leader?
I think especially because you go from to front line, to not wanting to jump in and do the job. I think that's the big thing. And understanding how I can still help in the sales process without taking that over. I've been a big believer in, I can't take it over. Even if it might cost, in the long run, the goal is that I enable the team to go do that. And I still play a part, right? Every leader plays a part in the sales process, especially if your team's selling. But I think at the end of the day, you just can't, I guess, come in there and be the super rep. So I think that was the biggest initial struggle was being able to just, again, get to that mindset of coaching, enabling, removing obstacles, being a part where I needed to be a part, not just jump in and try to run the sales cycle.
Right. Where are you trying to grow now? Well, how are you trying to personally develop as a leader for 2025?
Yeah, I think trying to get a little bit even more bigger picture, bring in some more sales methodologies, specific as we look at growing both here and the organization as we look to grow and kind of doing that. I haven't done a ton of that, so I think that's new to me and kind of that bigger picture scenario. So I think doing that and still kind of doing the day-to-day and balancing that. How do I make the time to get all of those things done? But I think trying to kind of up level from some maybe again more important aspects and not necessarily urgent, right? The tyranny of the urgent. What do you got to get done every day, do the deals and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
just kind of pulling back a little bit and seeing how we can look 2, 3, 4 years down the road to put in some more foundational pieces so we can continue to grow both the people and the revenue.
Are you good at maintaining a work-life balance?
I do think so. I think, but I look at it, in more of an ebb and flow perspective. I think it's less about it's got to be the same way all the time, and more about making sure that that I'm making the time to have the quality time. I think that's the other thing too. Not just being present with the family when you're there, but also when I'm here being present and not trying to be. So I think not perfect at it, but that's been a focus that I've always tried to make sure that I've got the ebbs and flows to make sure that I'm spending the quality time with the family. And for me too, at some level, I definitely, for me to be at my best for my team, I do need time to step away and charge up and have some other things so that I can do that piece of it. So I think on the whole, I've been able to do pretty decent at that. Yeah. I guess you should ask my wife. That would be the real answer for you on that one.
Yeah, that's okay. We will regard. Actually, I have her in the way. Let me.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah. Behind door number 1. Yeah.
What? I forgot my next question for you.
That's
You had to work the joke in.
Yeah.
What do you do to help your team with their work-life balance?
It's the same message I have for them. I like, hey, if you need to take time, go take time, make that the priority. But then come back. And I think the other thing too is I think a little bit in sales, right? You always got to be ready. You got to be ready with a response. Doesn't mean you have to do the thing right now, but respond. But I think that really is hey, if you're gonna be away, go be away. Do that and then come back and give it your all. I think sometimes, and again, in sales, you do have a little bit more of the flexibility on that piece, but I think that, I'm always like, hey, if you need to take care of something on the personal front, go get that done, get that wrapped up. Because if that's not good, then it probably is going to bleed into other areas there. So I think that's the same message.
Yeah. What do you do to recharge your batteries? What gets you back where you need to be?
Yeah, I living in Portland, Oregon, we've got a lot of great outdoor adventures. So I think getting out there is always good. I think Kierkegaard has a thing about a daily walk is the best medicine or something like that. And I do think just kind of getting away, unplugging. I think in our world, for me, I have to leave the phone. I have to figure out a way to get that. So, and I don't get to do that often, but I think that's the big piece of it. So backpacking or doing stuff like that. And then I do still enjoy coaching, and I think coaching outside of the work is actually a break for me because I get to use different pieces, but it's still a lot of the same similar skill sets, and I'm able to take some of the things I learned there and bring it back. So I think that is a way for me to kind of recharge in a different way.
Yeah, when I look back on the time coaching my kids' sports teams, I think it actually softened me as a leader working with little kids. Because you're trying to do the same stuff, right? You're trying to get the team going in the same direction, working as a team, working towards a goal. But yelling and screaming doesn't work, and you've got to have a different way. You have to find ways to get the kids to buy in and follow, right?
Yeah, and I think a little bit of it is a cry wolf, right? You need to be able to be serious and communicate the important things when they
Yeah.
are important,
Yeah.
and you still need to be able to have fun and things like that. So I think finding that balance of what are the important messages and how's the best way to deliver that so they understand that,
Yeah.
and then still, hey, it's still, it's still, in sports, it's still a game,
Yeah.
right? So we still should have some enjoyment, and the goal being like, hey, are you going to play next year? Versus, hey, did we win the championship? We want to win the championship, but there's a
Yeah.
lot that goes into that. The real thing is, do you want to come back and keep playing?
That's right. And, and there's also, you win some, you lose some, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you plan that far out, or do you do more of a year-to-year thing?
I think it's more of like, hey, I have a vision of 5 years. I feel like in today's day and age, even budgeting, it's hard to do 5 years out. But yeah, I think that in 5 years, I think it's just not about, yeah, I guess where do I mean hopefully here at Tech Heads we can do we've got some pretty audacious goals. And I see us being able to execute on those. I think, there's a lot of work that needs to be there. So I think it's it's probably in a similar role here that I have as far as leading the sales and marketing team, but just we've expanded, we've grown, we've been able to help more customers in more meaningful ways. So I think that's where, as I think about 5 years down the road, it's here, and it is, having kind of grown what we're doing, but in kind of the same, I guess, role I have.
Yeah, I love that you head up both sales and marketing. I wish more organizations were structured that way, because I'm a big believer that sales and marketing needs to be unified. It's really need to be the same team, really, when it comes right down to it. How do what's your philosophy or approach to create that unity between sales and marketing?
Well, we meet together, right? When we do, and again, we're not a big team here, but we still meet together. I think a lot of it is the sharing of ideas, but I know that sounds trite, but I think unless you are doing things together, it becomes very hard to be a team. I still get back to, you don't have to do it all the time, but there has to be some, you gotta know that you're all on the same team. I think a lot of it too is communication. Between what is marketing trying to do for sales,
right?
And how does everybody see the whole flow of what that is? And I think some, I've been on the sales side, but sales recognizing, marketing is trying to do stuff. Sometimes I think as an individual contributor, you don't feel that. Like, I don't get anything out of that. But there are lots of things that marketing is doing at a lot of different levels that do benefit. I think they're just harder to feel that one-to-one. So I think that's the big thing. What are we doing? How are we doing it? Maybe over communicating a little bit on that so people understand, and then really trying able to show sales, especially, hey, here's what you got. And then I think making that a partnership. How do we work together? I think, you have company sales goals, but then for the sales rep, how can we market specifically for them? How can we kind of do the big picture, but also make it kind of personalized based on the account set and things like that. So I think that's how trying to do that. And again, we're a smaller org, so I think that in some ways a little bit easier. I think definitely trying to, get teams together, get people together, and making sure everybody understands the impact that it's all making, right? And show people
just
how
listening.
that benefits.
Yeah, listening to you, it just goes back to what you were saying before about trust, about transparency, communication, collaboration, being a team, truly being a team.
Well, our weekly huddle includes sales and marketing, right? We're kind of all talking about, all sharing about good stuff, bad stuff. So marketing's hearing, I think that's the other thing, right? They're hearing what sales is saying, because a lot of times we'll get this group and this group, but no, we got to get together and talk about it in a constructive manner. But I think that's been helpful to have us all together at least once a week, going through all the good and the bad.
That's awesome. Shifting topics a bit, CRM, do you love it or do you hate it?
When done correctly, I love it, and I've experienced that once in my career. But most of the time, it's a struggle. I think, and it's interesting being, when you start as an individual contributor, you're really just like, what is this? Like, why am I doing this? And then you get on the leadership side and you be like, oh, this is super important, right? When done well, because it can provide the information needed to make the decision. And so I think, but it's always, it just seems to be a challenge. And, just, getting folks to do things, and make sure stuff, and it just feels like you waste a lot of time,
Yeah.
and a lot of effort going back and forth. And is the data right? And again, when I sit down with a rep, I don't want to just report the news. I want to have the data there so we can have real discussion about what needs to happen, not updates. So, so I think in general, it's a struggle. But I think it's definitely more about how it's implemented than the actual tool itself.
Yeah, I believe I couldn't agree more. I think people get too wrapped up on the tool. The tool's important. You want to have a tool that's got the capabilities, the core functionality you need for your business.
Yep.
That is really important. But I think people place too much importance on that because there's so much that wraps around CRM that's so important. Your data, your processes, your integrations.
Yep.
There's so much that if those aren't addressed, doesn't matter how good your CRM is, it's in the middle of chaos.
Yep.
No one's going to perceive it as good.
Yeah. No, and I think thinking about it in terms of it is a CRM, and I think a lot of, it's a sales thing or a marketing thing. It's a company, and it has to flow through how the company operates, and it has to be integrated in that to really do its job well, and not be a pain to everybody.
Yeah, I say this all the time. CRM, and I love you said when done right. When it's done right, it is a business strategy. It's not technology. People view it as technology, but when you do it the right way, it's extended throughout your business. It's not just sales. It's not just marketing. Because the deal is won. Now we have to deliver. That's a much bigger portion of the customer relationship than just that initial sales process. And that means it's got to be connected throughout the business. And to me, that's a real transformation. You're really going to have a tool that's enabling people. It's not about Big Brother. It's not about, hey, I need to update my pipeline for our next meeting. I mean, that's great, but it goes so far beyond that.
Yeah, and I think if it's not done well, it does kind of go down to, oh, my boss is just asking me to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't feel like most salespeople's skill set is doing that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's you're asking them to do something that's not if it can't be a part of their real workflow and enable them, it's always going to be a challenge to drive the right information. So it really is a whole company thing.
Yeah. How do you create a culture around CRM and your sales process?
Oh man, I'm going to be honest on that. It's a
please.
Yeah, I mean it's a work in progress.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard, and I think that's why I talk about it's really so a culture of that. I think it's getting away from the big brother and trying again. I think go to why is this important?
Yeah.
And why does it matter? And how, again, I think with most things, how will it help you? Whatever your customer, your team, how is this going to enable? Not just because we need it, right? That doesn't really drive much impact. It's how does this help you? And so I think part of that too is trying to be able to make sure that we're, architecting the CRM to be a helpful tool for the sales. Right. But I think it's just letting people know, like understanding, hey, the more we do this, the more it benefits you because this is the type of decisions we can make and this is how it will bring it back to you. So I think getting back to that culture of transparency and trust, again, we'll hit on that word trust. Sales reps got to trust that, hey, I'm not doing this, one, for no reason, right? Just as a checkbox. Two, that it's not becoming a policing methodology. And I'm just, every time I put it in there, I get a call from somebody, right? Like, you know what I mean? And no, it's more like, hey, I'm actually seeing benefit to my goals, right? Their goal is to go this revenue GP number, right? How is CRM helping me do that? So I think really just trying to show them, and it's not perfect, but hey, this is what we're going for. Taking input. How do we make it better for you? How do we make it easier? So I think that communication, that trust, that transparency is really what I'm working towards. I think we're still got a little ways to go on that, but that's definitely what we're driving.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of collaboration, a lot of ask a question and listen. guys, how can we make this better? How can we make this a tool that's enabling what you're doing? What are some of the ways we can enable things?
Yeah.
And usually they tell you we need better data, we need, whatever. But it's also helping I think the sales team understand that there's a whole nother section of the business that's relying on the data you're putting in CRM, right? You're part of a larger team.
Yep.
And so it's not just what you're doing. We're making decisions as a business
Yep.
on our forecast. If we don't have a good forecast, we're going to make bad decisions.
Yeah. And I think too, if we want to deliver what we need to for the customers that we have,
Yeah.
right? Getting back to, right, at the end of the day, we got to deliver all this once we sell it. So how do we do that in a
Yeah. Yeah. How do we manage the handoffs to the people that are delivering what we've sold? We want those to be seamless. We want the customer to have an incredible experience every step of the way. And that CRM's the backbone to make that happen.
I would agree. Yeah.
Awesome. Joel, we're at our time. It always goes by so fast. I hate looking at my timer here, but I always have come to a point where we have to shut things down. Really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us, sharing your experience with us. If people want to reach out and connect with you, if they want to learn more about TechHeads, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best way for me, Joel Robnett. You can just go search that. And of course, the website, if you want to learn about TechHeads, techheads.com. So those are the two best ways.
Awesome. So don't worry about searching LinkedIn for him if you didn't catch that. We'll have a direct link to Joel's LinkedIn profile as well as their company website. Anything you need to learn about Joel and TechHeads, it'll be in our show notes. You can get that at impellercrm.com/sales lead dog, where you'll get not only this episode of Sales Lead Dog, but all our 100+ episodes. Be sure to check that out and subscribe so you get all our future episodes. We greatly appreciate that. Joel, thank you again for the gift of your time and coming on Sales Lead Dog. It's been great. And welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate it. Happy to be a part.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.